Hey y'all, welcome back to the Power and Lifting podcast. I'm your host, Solana Lewis. Today I speak with the champion on the women's side of Sheffield, Agata Sitko. Agata just competed at Sheffield and as a 69 kilo lifter, she put up a 600 kilo total, the first person to ever do that in IPF history, and is the highest good lift score and dot score ever by a woman. Incredible performance, and I had the honor of seeing it live. I got to meet her there, and then she agreed to do an episode with me, which I was so excited to do. So I hope you guys enjoy it. We dive into her prep for Sheffield, her weight cut for Sheffield, her actual performance and day of, what she wants to do next, what she does for a living, all the good stuff. Please, if you're a fan of the podcast, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and that you leave a 5-star rating and review so that we can get the podcast out to more people. And let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. All right, y'all. I am super excited. I was not even sure she responds to my DM, but I'm sitting here with Agata Sitko, the Sheffield champion of 2024. How are you?
Um, Great. I think I finally got enough sleep after that crazy week. That was last week, so feeling good.
I can only imagine because, like, I'm sure with the time change and like all the traveling and everything you're doing, plus I know they had like a pretty solid itinerary for the athletes leading into Sheffield, right?
Yeah, we're constantly doing something. Like Thursday and Friday were full of like media stuff, training, SBDHQ tour, so pretty tight schedule.
So I do wonder because I know obviously you did Sheffield last year too. Was it even more media stuff than last year? Did it feel any different? I know they aim to make a lot of improvements, so I don't know if it was like better or different with the media stuff leading into Sheffield.
Uh, was pretty similar in terms of how much stuff we did, but there were some problems because it snowed on Thursday in UK. So we kind of had to move a few things because like people couldn't get back from their training session because the traffic was so heavy that they were stuck in the traffic for like 2 or 3 hours.
Oh my god.
That was the only problem.
Got it. Okay. So I would love to kind of dive into overall after last year's Sheffield, where you didn't have like your best day, especially compared to like your other performances. From there, when did you decide like if we get back to Sheffield, we may want to make an adjustment to the weight class? And obviously, I know it had to do with Evie because I know I have heard you on Kansas List podcast, and like that definitely sparked the idea in your mind. But when was that decision made?
So yeah, it first popped up after last year's Sheffield, but I wasn't really into that idea at first. I changed my mind afterwards because leading up to Worlds, I was struggling a lot to maintain my weight. I had to eat like 30 to 100 calories, and I was just so done eating because I had to force feed myself a lot to just maintain 75 kilos. So I just kind of thought that we could use this opportunity since that cut wouldn't probably be that hard as I don't have my appetite and all. So afterwards, I made my mind and started cutting right after competing.
Nice. Okay. So right after World. So when you did decide to make the cut, was it like a difficult cut? Was it kind of easy? Because you just said like it was definitely not something that you were shying away from due to how much you were force feeding.
Yeah, so it was very smooth and easy. For the most part, I started with like 2,900 calories, so that was still a lot of food. It got kind of bad at the last like 4 or 5 weeks. That's when I started getting hungry. A lot of like, yeah, I just wanted to throw it all out and just start eating because I've been very strict about my diet for so long. I couldn't eat some of the foods that I really like. And it's one time when my boyfriend just ordered KFC and started eating it in front of
Oh my
me.
god.
I was like, don't, please don't do this to me. So yeah, the last 4 weeks were kind of hard, but the rest was pretty smooth.
Okay, wait. I think I'd break up with my boyfriend if he did that to me.
I mean, he asked if he can do this or he should go outside to eat it. I told him it's fine, just give me a bite. So yeah.
And you're like, and I will never do that again if I ever cut again. That's funny. So I don't know if you're aware. So I'm also with a podcast called Two White Lights where we do preview shows for all of the big meets. So we did do a preview show leading into Sheffield, and so we're paying a lot of attention to your training going into Sheffield. Were you or your coach at all surprised at all that your lifts kept going up while you were cutting? Like, because we were wondering, okay, like she's definitely gonna like probably only maintain her lift, but like they were like going up, and we were like, how is your bench press going up? Like that's the lift that would, especially female athletes, like you lose weight and typically bench press, boom, like that's the one that takes the hit. So I still don't understand like how this went down.
I don't understand either. I mean, when it comes to squats and deadlifts, it's a bit easier because I've been dealing with a lot of back pain throughout the entirety of 2023. So when we were able to like take care of that to the point where I was able to train pain free pretty much all of the time for like the last 10 weeks of this prep, I think. So squats and deadlifts, I kind of knew why they were going up. When it comes to bench, I don't know. I don't have a clue myself. I think we just found a formula that really worked for me because my coach started fully programming for me after Sheffield 2023. So he didn't have like a lot of data at the beginning. And
Mm.
throughout this year, we were able to like find things that worked for me.
Okay, so were you self-coached prior or oh?
Yeah, yeah. So I was self-coached until fully self-coached until 2022. That's when I reached out to my current coach for the first time. But at the beginning, he would only review my programs and tell me if there's anything I could improve and program for my equip trainings for from 2022 to 2023. And he started fully programming for me after Sheffield last year.
Got it, got it. And that's, I mean, is it difficult to find a coach that's good with programming both equipped and raw? I'm definitely somebody who like I pay some attention to equipped, but like I don't like fully understand like equipped powerlifting.
Yeah, that's why I was self-coached for so long because I
Mm.
just didn't know who to reach out to. But yeah, I met my boyfriend at the national meet and I kind of mentioned to him that I'm looking for a coach for equipped, and he told me to reach out to this guy because he knew him and he's also coaching another female lifter for equipped from Poland, so he knew a little bit about it.
Nice. What's your coach's name?
Paweł Jurczyński.
Got it. I was like, I'm probably not gonna know
Mhm.
who it is. I just want to see maybe there's a chance. Nah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so at this point, so you arrive at Sheffield, and I actually did. Like, I glanced. I got to see you at like the hotel like the night before, and I was like, everyone's walking around. They're doing their thing. What's like? Were your thoughts kind of going into meet day? Because obviously you had this big goal. I mean, 600 kilos is the best obviously we've ever seen ever in this weight class. That is a massive total. And you knew you were going against Leah, and you knew you were going against Corolla, and you probably knew, just like we kind of figured, the podium, if y'all perform, would be a 3 for 69 due to where the world record was. So, like, where were you mentally the night before?
I was getting really bored and impatient. I just wanted the wait to be over and finally compete. I went into this year's Sheffield pretty confident in what I can do. Looking at my training and all, my weight was on point, so there were no worries about that. So yeah, I was just getting really impatient because I hate the last few days before the comp when all the training is done and you just have to wait and the time is going so slowly because you're so focused on the time passing. So yeah, but I was also getting really excited knowing that it's just one day before the day.
Awesome. Did you have to do anything in the morning of for your wake up, or were you at weight prior to the day of Sheffield?
I was I woke up at 68.5 the day
Oh,
of
okay.
the comp, pretty much the same the day before, because I was working at around 69.5 for the last like week before the comp, and I only did a small gut cut, so I actually just had to eat a little bit to fill the weight class.
That's I'm so happy I asked that question because I remember seeing like you weighed in like right underneath 69 kilos, and I was like, did she barely make it, or did she get to like maybe eat into it the day of? Like I was like wondering. So you were already under. You got to eat the day of.
Yeah, just so the entire Saturday morning I was just eating and weighing myself to check if I can eat a little bit more and just pretty much doing this for the for like 3 or 4 hours.
Were you in charge of your own nutrition throughout your cut?
At the beginning, yes. For the last 2 months, I started working with a nutritionist.
Solid. Is it someone that we would know?
I don't think
Potentially.
so. He's
Okay,
from
I'm
Poland as
serious.
well, so
Okay, gotcha. I'm like, hey, maybe it's fun. Like I know Kendrick is being the coach, seems to be the coach for like people who are going to Sheffield now for nutrition. So I'm like, maybe.
I was considering reaching out to Kedrick, but I just thought that we have smart people in Poland too. So
Solid, solid. All right, so we get to meet day. Well, actually, let me ask this question: was the goal specifically 600 kilos throughout your prep? Like, was that the goal that you had in mind?
the main goal was to win, obviously. And at first, I didn't really think I could cut down the weight class and hit 600, but I almost did it at girl power, and that's the point where I knew that would be my goal for the competition. And as training, yeah, just as the time passed, I just saw in training that it was pretty possible. I just knew I needed to hit attempts to make sure I perform on the day.
How much were you paying attention to Leah and Corolla's training?
I tried to pay as much attention as possible, but they weren't posting a lot, so
I
it
know,
wasn't
right?
that easy. But yeah, I always look at my uh, at others training, at my competitors training, to like kind of see where they are, to know where to aim. I'm not like stressed because someone lifts a lot. I'm motivated by it.
That is, I always like to know where the best are mentally when it comes to watching others training, because so often I hear the opposite. I hear like, I mean, they honestly they were posting barely anything because I was trying to get the
Yeah.
information too. But you know, like literally, I see people be like, "Oh, I don't look. I freaking delete Instagram from my phone. I can't handle it." I hear that very often. But you're like the opposite. You're like, "No, I want to see you getting stronger so I can get stronger too."
Yep. I think Leah said on one podcast that she doesn't look at others training, but she liked my post, so I don't know if she lied or she just saw, yeah, Agata Sitko, okay, give it a like and scroll, do not watch it.
That is so funny. And that was another thing too. Okay, did you listen to their or to Leah's podcast at least going into me?
Yeah,
Okay.
I listened to everything. I listened to all the podcasts with Leah and Carola. I listened to all the preview shows. I I just love hearing people say like underestimate me because that gets me really angry and that fuels me for my sessions. And I literally played Leah's podcast at at one session, and I added 10 kilos to my squat top set from week to week because I got so mad at what she was saying.
This is incredible. I absolutely love this. I love it when someone is fueled by what everyone's saying and you're capable of listening to everyone's like like to what they're saying, what they say they can do, and especially when people are saying like, "Hey, we don't think you can win." Because I mean, I'll be transparent. He probably listens to podcasts. I was like, I don't think she'll go 9 for 9. Like, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know. And now here we are. You're like, see what happens.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that because yeah, like I don't always make a lot of attempts, but what people don't really think about is that I don't go into every meet treating it equally. Like not every meet is important to me, so sometimes I just go to a meet for fun, like for instance for Euros that were in Poland in 2022, or just to get some money because that's how I make a living. But on those important comps, I can hit attempts like I did 8 out of 9 for Worlds both in 2022 and 2023. So it's not like I can't hit attempts, it's just that not every meet is equally important to me. And also, you can't really look at equipped because that's a whole other story and it's much less
Whole other
predictable.
sport.
Yeah, a whole other sport. So people don't really take that into consideration. So but yeah, I never had a 9 for 9 day, and I'm happy I finally was able to do it.
I think most important meet of your life. Would you
Yeah,
actually? Yeah. Would you consider this the most important meet of your life?
definitely.
Okay.
I think that's one of those meet I will remember for the rest of my life.
That is incredible. I love that you just said because you're so right. Like now, equipped. Yes, I look at equipped and I'm like, if there's misses, I'm like, that's a whole different story. But I never considered that when you're going into certain meets, like you might just not care to try to be like, I'm here to go 9 for 9, have my best day. And then you just said this is how you make a living. So are you like a full time powerlifter?
Yep.
Okay, wait. So like, because you don't understand, I never get to talk to anybody who's a full time powerlifter. Like that is so cool. So you make so like wait, all of your money comes from competing, like all of it.
The vast majority comes from money meets because when I compete abroad, the money price is like 4 to 5 times in my currency.
Mm-hmm.
So I can make like 20K in a meet and a bit more at Sheffield. And then I work with SBD, so I get some money from working with them and a little bit of money for like scholarship from my like government and some money prizes from the government as well. And but the most of it comes from money meets.
Incredible. I so wish America cared about powerlifting like the government. Like whenever I hear someone's government is involved, I'm like, that's so cool. Like our government doesn't know what powerlifting is. So
Yeah, but it's more like local government rather than generally the government. And it's
okay,
not like a lot of money, it's a few hundred zlotys per month. So it's not huge, but it's always something.
got it. And you also mentioned too, like this. So this was your first meet ever going 9 for 9. Was there anything you did to help you better mentally prepare for Sheffield?
Not really. I think it all comes down to attempt selection and like training my bench to standard because I used to skip press comments a lot. And this prep, we did a lot of long post benches, and I just made sure to always get someone to give me press comments when doing heaviest singles. So I feel like it's more that.
And then also, because I know we had like a little bit of an issue with bench depth last year. Do you think losing weight helped you with bench depth?
I don't know if maybe a little bit, but the main thing I changed is I started sinking the bar. So that was the main thing.
Okay, I don't think I technically noticed that you were thinking it more than before.
I did not sink it at all last year.
Oh my
So,
god.
but like I sank it really, really deep on my first attempt because I had PTSD from last year after almost bombing out. So I sank it super, super deep and it felt much heavier than it should. And then I tried to sink it a little bit less on my second and third, so might not be as noticeable.
Okay. That I the sink technique is so hard, in my opinion. I don't do it. It's so hard to get down because it has a lot to do. Well, I would think it has a lot to do with timing, right? Like you have to sink it, but if you sink it too long, like then it can make it way harder to get up, right?
Yeah, and also it's harder to get the press command because the bar keeps moving. But like you gotta do what you gotta do. I tried to make my arch smaller a lot, but I just couldn't. I don't know how to set up to make my arch smaller. And we tried a lot of things, and it seemed like, to me it seemed like I didn't have an arch at times, but it just looked pretty much the same. So that was the only thing that actually helped.
Okay. So the actual day of Sheffield, were you yourself also paying attention to the numbers of your competitors?
Yep.
You're the only person I hear saying they do. Everyone else says no. They're like, no, I don't look. I put the music on. I look away. Like you're like, no, I'm super involved in it, and I just love to hear that. So during bench press, especially, like once we get through bench and you get the world record bench, which have been held by Jen Thompson for I think since 2021. So that's really cool that like you broke it at Sheffield. And obviously we need to have the strength to do it, but just the fact that it's been there for 3 years, that was so cool. At that point, were you just thinking more, let me just go for 600? Or I still have to try to win? Because in my opinion, after bench press, I'm like, you got this. It's yours now. Like you just have to not bomb your deadlift. And you, in my opinion, I think like you basically had one after bench press.
Yeah, so as soon as I saw the openers, I already knew I won.
Mm-hmm.
My coach told me to not get carried away too soon, but I was like, yeah, whatever. So I just, yeah, as soon as I saw the openers, I knew I just had to go for 600, and that was pretty much what I needed to win, or even less. And after second deadlift, I was already secure in first place, so I knew I could just go for that 600.
And when you hit like, what was like the first thought that crossed your mind when you saw 3 red lights for your last deadlift, and you knew that you not only broke the deadlift record on top of the bench record, on top of the total record, but like you literally hit like the exact goals you had set for this meet.
I I totally don't remember what was going through my head. I can only imagine looking at the videos because yeah, it's just I don't know. It's I can't even. I tried to go through that whole thing and like try to. I can. Wait, let me get my thoughts. I generally know what I was thinking before the attempt and when walking up to that bar, but everything after that is just like black. I blacked out. I don't remember, but I was probably really happy, almost cried, really proud of myself, and like this just huge feeling of achievement.
I can only imagine that too because I remember watching you run off the stage and you were like, it was like this is definitely the happiest moment you've ever experienced like in your life. Like I can't even imagine like what could have been going through you like once you saw the accomplishment of that day.
I I only remember that I thought shit when I dropped my belt. Like, oh, why did I have to do this?
Oh my god, incredible. Also, how much does the trophy weigh? Like when you picked it up, I was like, it looks like she's flexing her biceps to like pick up the
It was
trophy.
18 kilos.
Oh, dang. I love that is a heavy trophy. That's a solid
Yeah, it
hefty
is.
trophy. Nice. Okay, so now Sheffield is over. I know other people have asked this, but I don't know personally. What are we doing in terms of weight class for your next meet? And what do you want to do for next Worlds? If you're open to saying it.
I'm going back up to the 76s because one, I want to eat some food, get some new muscles, get a respectable squat finally, and face it off with Carlina again. Would be cool to finally beat her. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going for 76s for Classic Worlds, and then 81st for equipped worlds, and then 76th for next Sheffield
Why 84 for Equip Worlds?
to squat 300 kilos.
Oh my god, that's incredible. That is incredible. I do remember also, I think I heard from someone, I'm not sure if it was on a podcast, that it's harder to fit into your equipment when you're this light. Is that also part of the reason why you want to be like 84 for equipped?
Yeah, uh, I mean, I probably should just buy some new equipment, but it's gonna be my last equipped meet ever because I just found out that you can't compete in both at the World Games. You have to choose either raw or equipped. So it's gonna be my last big meet ever. So I just don't feel the need to buy new equipment just to use it once.
Mm-hmm.
And my equipment is pretty big. I have a 38 size t-shirt, and my squat and deadlift suits are both 40. So they're definitely too big for me right now. So that's part of the reason.
Last equipped meet ever. I This makes me excited because I'm just Team Ross. I'm like, so we're just gonna go and live on the Raw side.
Uh, like the thing that kept me in equipped was the World Games, but now that the
Mm-hmm.
World Games are raw, there's really no point to compete equipped for me anymore. I just want to hit some of my like equipped goals, which are 300 kilo squat, 225 plus kilo bench, and then 800 kilo plus total. And that's why I'm gonna do this meet.
Is it a happy feeling or kind of like a sad feeling that like now that there's Raw in the World Games, you will be saying goodbye to Equipped?
It's I feel it's more happy. It's like it was always just a side quest, just because of the just because of the World Games, and I honestly prefer Raw both for training and competing. It's just nicer. It's more competitive. You don't need as many people. It's not as tiring. So I won't miss it for sure.
Okay.
But I might throw a single lift bench press equipped meet here and there because I just like benching in a bench shirt.
Nice, nice. When you were doing your prep going into this Sheffield, you already mentioned that you had a coach only for like the last year. Did you guys make any major changes besides the bench press syncing, like the to your actual programming and like how often you were training and how long your sessions were?
So I throughout the entirety of 2022 I was doing 6 SBD sessions per week,
Oh
and
my
that changed
god.
this year. I still bench 6 times a week, but my squat frequency went down to 3 times a week and deadlift 4 times a week. It changed throughout the year a little bit because right after Sheffield I wasn't able to lift as often, so the frequencies were even lower. But for this prep, that's how it looked. And then one thing we added was that I would do fatigued singles instead of just regular singles for both my heaviest squat and deadlift sessions. So I would do some ascending sets for squat, then a top single, then backoffs, and for deadlift I only did ascending sets and then a top single because we've realized that I could warm up to my top single on deadlift fine with my back, but then my back would be too fatigued and hurt too much to do some back off sets. So I
Mhm.
only did ascending sets before the top single. And that I feel like helped a lot with my back.
Awesome. Do you think that also lowering the frequency overall of your squat and deadlift also helped your back?
I I'm not 100% sure because I was lifting with lower back pain for a very long time. And
Wow.
when I started doing SBD 6 times a week, it didn't get worse. I feel like it even got a little bit better. But then I hurt it pretty badly before last year's Sheffield at 4 weeks out. I
Okay.
did something stupid, then I did the heaviest SBD session, and it got to a point where I couldn't even like get up from my bed. I couldn't turn around in bed. I couldn't sneeze. I couldn't laugh. Like even the smallest movements hurt. So of course, heavy squats and deadlifts were out of question, and that's why we had to lower the frequency. But before that, it wasn't really that bad.
Got it. I remember knowing you were injured going into last year. I didn't know any of the details. I was like, I think I heard she has back pain, but you've come so far in terms of managing the back pain since then. How's your back? How was your back like at the very end towards Sheffield, and how is it like right now after Sheffield?
It's pretty fine. As I've said, I was able to lift for like 8 or 10 weeks totally pain free, and it didn't get worse after competing. So it's definitely much better. And yeah, I feel like we also approached it much better after Sheffield than during this the last year's Sheffield prep, because at that time I was still self-programming. So I feel like my coach didn't really have that much data to work on to help me with it, and I didn't know what to do about it at all. So we didn't really approach it that well last year. So yeah, I'm really glad I finally let him program for me, because I was a bit hesitant about that after being self-coached for so long. I was a little bit anxious what it would be like to work with a coach, but that was the best decision I could have made.
And I definitely hear often, especially when it comes to like elite lifters who've been self-coached for so long, like that is very hard to hand over the reins to someone else. At what point in working with him did you actually feel like, okay, I actually am comfortable letting you fully take control? Okay, I'm sure it was not week one.
No, no. As I said, he started programming for me after last year's Sheffield, and that was
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't really know how to approach training with such an injury. I wasn't able to squat or deadlift comfortably, so I knew like it would be better if he took care of that, because I was already starting to prep for Worlds, and yeah, I just didn't know how to approach all of that, and he knew, so that was the point.
I'm so happy that like the first person you ended up going to ended up being like such a good match.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty random. Like, I didn't really do any research on coaches. I totally didn't have an idea of who even is, like what are the options in terms of coaches in Poland. I didn't really know any of them. So it's really just pure luck that I met my boyfriend and he knew him and he told me to go to him, because I think after working with him for those 2 years that he is among the best, if not the best coaches in Poland. He is really nerdy. He loves Excel and like analyzing and calculating things, and he's constantly learning new things. So yeah, I was really lucky to find him.
That's excellent. Do you do any coaching yourself for other people?
Mm, No, no, I don't feel like I have enough knowledge to do that.
Is that something you ever want to do?
I am thinking about it. It would be like it's something I'm passionate about, but I'm not sure if I want to work with people. So I am thinking about it, but not really into it.
Now, with the prize money from Sheffield, what is our number one thought when it comes to how you want to spend that money? Because you got the number one money from the Sheffield.
Yeah, it's 200K in my currency.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm just gonna like invest it and start putting away for an apartment in the future. It's too much to spend on something. So yeah, and too little to buy an apartment. So just gonna start saving.
Yeah, when you said like when you go overseas, like the currency like is 4 or 5 times more than yours, that didn't cross my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, you use full time. I'm like, wait a minute, but you're right. If like the calculations like that, like it's so much more for you when you get
Yeah,
home.
yeah. It's like I could have bought an apartment with this back in 2020 or
Hmm.
like 2019, before the whole COVID thing and the war with Ukraine and the inflation. But right now it's not enough. So the best thing is to just invest it.
Smart, smart. Is there any one person who competes in powerlifting who you personally look up to the most?
Hmm. Right now, I don't know. When I started powerlifting, it was just Bittner because I knew her from like Strength Central's Lift of the Week videos, and she was my weight class, so I was really looking up to her. But right now, I don't think there's anyone. I mean, I know most of the like top competitors personally, and I would say I am amongst them. So
Well, yeah, kind of.
yeah, I look at them more like friends than people I would look up to.
That's really cool to hear because I definitely like even as someone who just gets to talk to people on my podcast, I'm like when you start to really meet people and know them, I still look up to a lot of them, but now it's definitely like a different kind of light that I see them in. I see you as like a regular person versus like, oh my gosh, you're up there, and I could never even like say hi to you. Like,
Yeah, like that's what like I that's how I feel about just Bittner because I looked up to her, but then I actually got to compete with her
mm-hmm.
and I met her in person and I stopped like looking at her like that huge idol, but more like someone I know, an actual person and all of that. So I get what you're saying.
So obviously it's a little ways away, but do you already have some numbers in mind for the total you think you want to hit for Raw Worlds at the 76?
Mm, I just want to hit enough to win, but without bumping the world record too much. So whatever is needed for that. So probably 610 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at Carolina right now.
No, that obviously that makes sense. It's the goal. That's what's okay. Do you like this? Do you now like that Worlds can sort of feel a little less competitive because you're always now weary of the world record due to Sheffield?
I wouldn't say it's less competitive because you still have to win to qualify for Sheffield, and most of our weight classes are pretty stacked right now, and you actually have to fight for first place. So people can't really hold back that much. So it's competitive in a different way. Like Sheffield is a show meet where you
Mm-hmm.
just go all out, hit all those huge numbers, and Worlds is more of like just trying to win.
So that is very true, especially now with the world records that after Sheffield, there's not going to be too much coasting. But it definitely is. It's a different feel, right? Like going into Worlds might be a different feel than going into Sheffield.
Yeah, it definitely is. Because you only fight with like one or two people in your weight class and not with 11 other people.
Makes sense. Agata, thank you for joining me. I love talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
And congratulations again. And I cannot wait to see you compete next time.
Thank you. Hopefully, you won't say the same things about me on your next preview show
Oh,
for the one
girl,
side.
I mean, I definitely can't now. I think I'd be pretty crazy to count you out. So,
Remember that I'll be listening to it for sure.
yes. Oh my gosh. And to be honest, I went into this like, I wonder if she even knows who I am. Like, oh, so funny. Well, thank you for being a listener of the podcast I'm a part of. And y'all, catch you next time on the Power and Lifting podcast.